Ibrahim Traoré received an anonymous letter. Cell block D17, prisoner 047. He's been there since 1996. They want him dead before you find him. Traoré went alone at midnight, and what the forgotten prisoner told him exposed a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of power. February 14, 2026. 9:23 p.m. Ibrahim Traoré sat in his office reviewing prison reform proposals. Burkina Faso's correctional system was outdated, overcrowded, corrupt. He had promised comprehensive reform. But then an envelope appeared on his desk. No return address, no official markings, just his name, handwritten. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The message was typed in French, brief and chilling. Mr. President, there is a man in Ouagadougou Central Prison who has been held in solitary confinement since 1996. Cell block D17, cell 047. His name is not in any official record. He was a witness to crimes committed by people still in power. They have kept him alive but silent for 28 years. If you don't find him soon, they will make sure he disappears permanently. Go alone. Trust no one. Traoré read it 3 times. Then he picked up his phone and called Colonel Keita, his most trusted security chief. I need you to quietly pull all records on Ouagadougou Central Prison, specifically cell block D17. Don't alert anyone. Report directly to me. Within 2 hours, Keita returned with a thin folder. Sir, according to official records, cell block D17 was condemned in 1994 due to structural damage. It's been sealed ever since. No prisoners, no staff access. The entire wing is listed as abandoned. And cell 047 doesn't exist in the database. There's no prisoner record matching that designation from 1996 or any other year. Traoré leaned back. So either the letter is a hoax, or someone has been keeping a man imprisoned off the books for almost 3 decades. Keita's expression darkened. If it's real, sir, this is beyond corruption. This is a state crime. Which is why I'm going to see for myself. Tonight, and I'm going alone. Sir, that's not negotiable. At 11:47 p.m., Traoré drove himself to Ouagadougou Central Prison. No convoy, no security detail. Just the president in civilian clothes, arriving at the main gate like an ordinary visitor. The night guard recognized him immediately and nearly fell over. Mr. President, we weren't informed. I'm here for an unannounced inspection. Open the gate. The warden was summoned from home, arriving disheveled and panicked. Sir, if we had known, we would have prepared. I don't want preparation. I want access to cell block D17. The warden's face went pale. Sir, that wing has been condemned for years. It's not safe. There's nothing there. Then you won't mind showing me. They walked through the main prison facility. Overcrowded cells, poor lighting, the smell of decay. But Traoré's focus was elsewhere. They reached a heavy steel door marked with faded warning signs. Condemned, no entry, structural hazard. The door was padlocked with a chain covered in rust. See, Mr. President, the warden said nervously. It's been sealed for decades. Traoré examined the lock. The rust was superficial. Beneath it, the metal showed signs of recent use. Scratches, wear marks. This has been opened recently. Get bolt cutters. The warden hesitated. Sir, I must insist. Now. The chain was cut. The door groaned open, revealing a dark corridor. Traoré took a flashlight from a guard and stepped inside. The air was thick, stale. The walls were cracked, water damage evident. But the structure was solid. This wasn't condemned. This was hidden. He walked down the corridor, counting cells. Most were empty, doors hanging open. But at the end of the hall, One cell door was closed, locked, and painted on the rusted metal in faded numbers, 047. Traoré's heart pounded. He approached slowly. Through the small barred window in the door, he shined his light inside, and he saw him. A man, impossibly thin, sitting on a concrete slab. Long gray hair, unkempt beard, skin pale from decades without sunlight. The man squinted at the light, raising a skeletal hand to shield his eyes. His voice, when he spoke, was hoarse, broken. Who are you?" Traoré's throat tightened. "My name is Ibrahim Traoré. I'm the president of Burkina Faso. What's your name?" The man stared, as if the words didn't make sense. Then, slowly, he whispered, Jean-Baptiste Ouédraogo. "How long have you been here?" I don't know. There's no windows, no calendar. Years, many years." Traoré turned to the warden, who stood frozen in the corridor. "Open this door, now." "Sir, I don't have the key." "Then break it." Guards brought tools. The lock was old but solid. It took 10 minutes to break through. When the door finally swung open, Traoré stepped inside. The cell was tiny, barely 3 meters by 2. A concrete bed, a filthy bucket, no toilet, no running water. The walls were covered in scratches, tallies, desperate attempts to count time. Jean-Baptiste stared at Traoré with hollow eyes. Am I dying? Is this the end?" "No," Traoré said gently. "You're being freed, but first, I need to know. Why are you here? Who put you in this cell?" The old man's eyes filled with tears. I thought everyone forgot. I thought I would die here, and no one would ever know. I know now, and I need you to tell me everything." Over the next 2 hours, in that cold cell, Jean-Baptiste told his story. In 1987, he had been a junior military officer stationed at Camp Guillaume, the military base where President Thomas Sankara was assassinated. On October 15th, the day of the coup, Jean-Baptiste had been on duty near the command building. He saw everything: the soldiers who surrounded Sankara, the foreign advisors who coordinated the operation, the execution itself. But he didn't just witness it, he photographed it. He had a camera, a personal one, which was against regulations but not uncommon. And in the chaos, he took photos, evidence, proof of who killed Sankara and who ordered it. After the coup, when Blaise Compaoré took power, Jean-Baptiste tried to hide. But someone had seen him with the camera. Within weeks, he was arrested, not officially, but quietly. No charges, no trial. He was told if he gave up the photos and stayed silent, he'd be released. He refused. So they buried him, placed him in this cell, told the world he didn't exist. And for 28 years, he had sat in darkness, alone, waiting for death or rescue. Whichever came first. "The photos," Traoré asked quietly. "Do you still have them?" Jean-Baptiste shook his head. "They took them when they arrested me, but I made copies. I hid them. In case someone ever came." "Where?" "My sister's house, in Bobo Dioulasso, hidden in the wall behind a family photo. If she's still alive, if the house still stands, they're there." Traoré stood. "We'll find them. But first, we get you medical attention." Jean-Baptiste was taken to a private hospital under armed guard. Doctors found him severely malnourished, suffering from chronic infections, vision damage from years in darkness, and psychological trauma. But he was alive. Against all odds, he had survived. Meanwhile, Traoré ordered an immediate investigation. Who authorized Jean-Baptiste's imprisonment? Who maintained it for 28 years? Who fed him, kept him alive, ensured his silence? The trail led to a network of mid-level officials, prison administrators, and military officers, people who had been following orders from above, orders that were never written down, never documented. One official, when confronted, broke down. We were told it was a matter of national security, that the prisoner knew things that could destabilize the country. We were just following orders. Whose orders? The man went silent, but his fear spoke volumes. Traore sent a trusted team to Bobo Dioulasso. They found Jean-Baptiste's sister, elderly now, but alive. The house was still standing, and behind the family photo, just as Jean-Baptiste had said, they found a sealed envelope. Inside were negatives, film from 1987. The images were developed in a secure facility, and what they showed was devastating. French military advisors meeting with Burkinabe coup plotters hours before Sankara's assassination. Weapons being unloaded from unmarked trucks. The execution itself, Sankara's body, the soldiers standing over him, faces clearly visible. And in one photo, a document on a desk. Zooming in, enhancement revealed text, an operational plan dated October 10, 1987, outlining the logistics of removing Sankara and installing Traore. Signed by French intelligence officers and Burkinabe collaborators. This wasn't rumor. This wasn't speculation. This was proof. Traore sat alone in his office, staring at the photos. For decades, Sankara's assassination had been treated as an internal coup. France denied involvement. Traore's government suppressed investigations. And a man who witnessed the truth had been locked away to ensure it stayed buried. But now, the truth was out, and Traore had a decision to make. He could release the photos immediately, expose everyone involved, trigger political chaos, or he could use them strategically, as leverage, as protection. He chose a third option. On March 1, 2026, Ibrahim Traoré held a press conference. He brought Jean-Baptiste with him, clean, clothed, still frail, but alive. And he told the world what had happened. This man, Traoré said, gesturing to Jean-Baptiste, was imprisoned for 28 years without trial, without record, without legal process. Why? Because he witnessed the assassination of Thomas Sankara and refused to stay silent. He was buried alive in our justice system, erased from existence, so that the truth about Sankara's murder would never surface. He held up one of the photos, blurred enough to protect sensitive identities, but clear enough to show its nature. These are photographs taken on October 15, 1987. They show foreign involvement in Sankara's death. They show Burkinabe officials collaborating with external forces, and they prove that for nearly 40 years, we have been lied to about what happened to one of Africa's greatest leaders. The reaction was seismic. Families of Sankara's supporters demanded justice. International media covered the story extensively. France issued a statement denying the allegations, but the photos, verified by independent forensic experts, spoke louder than denials. And Jean-Baptiste, the forgotten prisoner, became a symbol, not of victimhood, but of endurance. He had been buried, but not broken, silenced, but not erased, and his survival had exposed a conspiracy that powerful people had spent decades protecting. In a follow-up interview, Traoré reflected on the discovery. We talk about justice reform, anti-corruption, accountability, but sometimes those words are abstract. Jean-Baptiste made it real. One man, locked in a cell for 28 years, because he refused to let truth die. If we don't honor that, if we don't ensure it never happens again, then we've learned nothing. Jean-Baptiste himself, in his first public statement, said simply, "I thought I would die forgotten, but I was found. And now, maybe Sankara's death won't be forgotten either. Maybe the truth will finally matter." The photos Traoré released were incomplete, enough to prove foreign involvement, but not enough to identify every individual. The full archive, he announced, would be stored securely and released gradually as investigations proceeded. It was a strategic move, ensuring the evidence couldn't be destroyed while also preventing immediate chaos. But the message was clear. The age of impunity was ending. The forgotten would be remembered, and the buried truth would rise.